Good morning. I am going to discuss to you the procedures in developing instructional materials. On making instructional materials, we have to consider first the learner's learning styles. We have to make sure that our instructional materials are suitable to the learners. The cognitive skills, the psychomotor skills, and the affective skills. And the learner's senses, the sight, taste, hear, smell, and touch. And the next step that we're going to do is to master the content of our lesson. On setting learning objectives or learning outcomes, we must consider first the student's cognitive skills, the psychomotor skills, and affective skills, and especially the learner's senses, as what I've said earlier.
So for example, I have made a semi-detailed lesson plan in Science 4. So I set the learning outcomes based on those skills stated. At the end of the lesson, the learners should be able to classify materials based on the ability to absorb water, float, sink, and undergo decay. Observe the properties of the materials based on their ability to absorb water, float, sink, undergo decay, and reflect how the properties of materials affect the environment based on their ability to absorb water, float, sink, and undergo decay.
So the content I made is about the properties of matter, and the materials that I am going to use are the PowerPoint presentation, worksheets, and objects. So this is my first instructional materials, the presentation. So as you can see, I have incorporated pictures in my PowerPoint presentation in order for the students to attentively listen to the discussion and in order for them to not feel boring in the class. So this is my second instructional materials, the answer sheet. The students will going to write their answers here based from their observation in the activity, like this. Take note that having a hands-on activity that uses real objects can help the learning of the learners becomes easy, by which students can use their five senses upon dealing with the activity. They can smell the object, they can see the object, or they can touch the object. Making an activity like this will help the learners to easily classify and observe which materials
has the ability to absorb water, sink, and float. And also, students can easily determine which among the materials undergo decay. So here is my reflection on making instructional materials. Instructional materials isn't just about presenting the topic that we're going to tackle in the class, but also making it easy and convenient to understand by the learners. The more we create IMs creatively, the more learners will get involved in every discussion. Instructional materials are necessary in teaching and learning to address the lesson easily to the learners, and it serves as the learner's motivation to learn confidently. From my experience in creating IMs, it helps me realize that as teachers someday, we need to critically master our content and to critically evaluate the content of our lesson in order for us to make a constructive alignment from our lesson to the activities and assessments that we will provide to the learners. Making instructional materials for me is quite fun and motivating because from the process of making it, our creativity is enhanced and help me think about how far these IMs I made will supply the learners need to learn. Upon making the IMs, it allows me to imagine the future. It has a glimpse of reality that is waiting ahead of me. So, on making IMs, we have to consider our learners' varying needs. As a future teacher, this activity helped me to realize how important was IMs for the learners. For knowing that, I will make sure that the IMs I will be producing someday is convenient to all learners.